So, welcome to another part of the dive into ACOTAR, the series, or the ACOTAR series, sorry. So this is going to be for chapters 2 to 5. I do plan on doing it for every 5 chapters. However, the first part was, or the first chapter, I decided to do it all on its own. And I might also do that for the last chapter of this book. But we'll see what happens. I kind of feel like this book has major plot points or maybe cliffhangers every 5 chapters so far. For transparency's sake, I am on chapter 14 of this book. I'm keeping Storygraph updated. I also post every day on TikTok and Instagram. And let's just say I have a lot of tabs. With that, I ran out of yellow tabs, and that's kind of my catch-all. So now it's gonna be green. Let's get into it. So this is not intended to be a recap, but I will try and give a little bit of an explanation of what's happening throughout the chapter as we're analyzing. Okay. Okay. So kind of what's happening here, right? So this is gonna be for pages 9 to 20. But so Feyre, she's done hunting. She's coming to the cabin, right? Their home, and she kind of heals. Not kind of. She heals her sisters inside, and this is kind of like a mean thing that she kind of thinks. I literally look at it and I go, "Do I have a tab for misogyny?" Because she's complaining or she's kind of having negative thoughts, right? Her sisters liking to talk about boys and ribbons, and they should really just be doing firewood, right? Like cutting it. And at this time, I will say, she does not know if her sisters chop the firewood. She doesn't at this point. Did they? No, not when she got home. But they don't all they do, but and Nesta's a little bit resistant to it. But at this point, she does not know that. And she's over here like, I drown out the noise of my sisters talking probably about boys and ribbons. Feyre, what's wrong with that? What's wrong with ooh, what's wrong with that? What's wrong with your sisters liking talking about boys and ribbons? Right. Because it's also just like they are adults. They are women talking about men, right? But it's almost as if we're minimizing that, right? Because Faye was 19. We learned that Nesta, the eldest, is 3 years older than her. So these are adults, right? And I mean, I'm gonna count that as a mean thing because it's that's kind of misogynistic. Okay, you want them to chop firewood, but at this point you don't know that, and the problem is what they're talking about, right? I'm just saying, But basically, how I would describe her getting home is everyone having big feelings and no one actually communicating with each other. And the only person who does communicate gets called not um I don't even know what she describes her sister as. Um Oh my gosh, I need to look at it because ooh, my hair was not looking nice. Anyways, so that's another thing. Faye was kind of Elain still makes her hair look pretty, even though we're in poverty. Like ribbons and talking about boys, one thing. Now we're adding on top of that, your sister likes to have her hair look nice. It's in a braid. Like it's not the best of energies to be in. Um, so this is what she says about Elain, right? Elain sometimes just didn't grasp the things. And Nesta describes her as one with a sneer on her face. That's mean. That's mean. like the reason also why I keep on pointing out when they are mean is not to say sisters can't be mean to each other, right? And it's not also saying that you're not going to be upset, and especially these kind of living conditions. The problem that I'm having with it is a lot of people have, I don't know if it's like a bias, but it's like saying one sister is mean and but the other sister is not. And what I'm trying to do is just trying to be like, are they mean, right? And kind of what it seems like is both Feyre and Nesta are. But the difference is Nesta's going to tell you, and Feyre's going to be fake. So I'll let you decide which one's worse. Because in these chapters that we're talking about, Feyre does not disagree with Nesta when Nesta's being mean to other people. When we're talking about their father, she has the same thoughts. She just doesn't voice them. When they're talking about children of the blessed, she has the same thoughts. And when other people call them basically a slur, that is very similar to a slur in our world, she doesn't disagree with it, right? So it's like they are both mean and they can both be mean. They do not have to be nice. And with the whole thing about the wolf, it's not trying to say that this character has to be morally okay. My point is that from chapter 1, we are being shown that this is not a person with uncorrupt morals. And I think that is the point of the story. So, with that, we are going to keep the mean tracker, but I will also say sometimes I do feel like I want to take away points if they are being nice to each other, but I haven't decided if I was going to do that yet or not. So, okay. We'll start in the cabin. Back in the cabin, right? So Elain, she's kind of like talking, right? She's like the only one having polite conversation. um, Everyone else is either grumpy and not talking, or they're grumpy and talking. Elain's hungry. Elain's hungry. And I like Elain. I actually think I like all three sisters. But I just, gravitate more towards one than the other right now. But Elaine's just like, oh, how long can you before we can eat it, basically, right? How long will it take for you to do it? She says this to Feyre, and Feyre gets like emotional about this, not like crying but angry. She's like, yeah, me. I'm the one who has to do it. And at that point, I'm like, pause. How have you tried to say you want your sisters to take more of a role? Do they know how to do this? How do you know how to do this? Because one of my questions is that I'm coming up with things is like, how do you know what you know? How are you getting, like, you type of a thing, right? And it's explained that the only reason Feyre knows how to, dress, I believe that's what it's called, the meat, is because she was taught how to do it. So my question is, okay, is this something that you have not taught your sisters, but your sisters don't feel like they can um, approach you to learn this? Is that each sister has her own way to contribute, and they don't want to take this away from you, just like how Elain has gardening, non-food, probably herbs. Excuse me. Right? Like, what's happening here? Um, but she's kind of like rude. But like at the same time, I'm not gonna add one for that specifically with Elain because like I just view that as like that's sarcasm. That's you doing that with your sister. It's fine, whatever. Um, and this is also when we get to a point in which Nesta says she needs new boots. Now Feyre looks at her boots, Nesta's boots, and she's like, they're like compared to mine, basically, they look new. She says they look new, right? But she's also comparing it to her boots are falling apart. Elain is just like, I need a new cloak. Now the problem is, like, everyone needs something, and unless you have money, you're not going to be able to get it. So it would make sense that everyone would need something, right? But Faye was kind of like dismissive. She was like, well, Nesta only wants something if, like, other people also want it as well. But, like, we're not seeing that. We're just, how Faye was looking at it is they look better than mine. Um, but, anyways, one person definitely needs something here. Um, but I think that this is like a potential of like, oh, well, she's the main breadwinner because they're asking her for, the money that this is going to bring in. But to that, I want to contradict that a little bit and say, well, this is Feyre's contribution. This is Feyre's income, basically. And they are trying to get her to use that. Just as basically, uh, Feyre mentions that. She has tried, or when times were good, that she got Elain seeds for her to garden, right? And Elain also got not Nesta, Feyre paint. And this was during this glorious summer that they had extra money a few years back. um, they say glorious as sarcasm, right? Because obviously just because you have a good summer does not mean like it's actually good. But like this is when they had a little bit of disposable income. So I'm just like, okay, this does not necessarily mean that she is the primary breadwinner. This just means right now this is her money and they are trying to, you know, have her sister spend something on them. Right? Anyways, this is also when we roll. She was not 11 when she went out into the woods. The reason why I was saying that was not to intend to spread misinformation, but going off of the information we got only from that first chapter. So in this chapter, we learned that she was 14 when she picked up a bow and went out. We still don't know how she got it at this point, but that's basically what's happening, right? So she was 14, she went out there. That makes a little bit more sense why no one would like question a 14-year-old. Not saying a 14-year-old should be out in the forest alone hunting. No, absolutely not. What I am saying is it makes more sense why she was able to do it alone. But we'll also, we do get why she may not be buddy-buddy with hunters. We're going to get to that though. So she also says this deal is only going to last them probably 2 weeks. And I understand technically that is a low end for how long deal can last, a group of 4 people, but you know my feelings on that. Alright, so we're gonna go back to the like whole Holt feelings. So she does have Holt feelings, and she's rightful to feel that. When she was 14, she should not have been going out. I understand why though. But from what I hear, a lot of sometimes people have this thought that it was like, well, her sister should have stopped her. In this scene, as of chapter 2, she's not upset with her sisters for not stopping her from going into the woods. She's upset with her dad. Rightfully so. I wouldn't say that, rightfully so. And I understand that there is a problem with him working in the market he originally was in, and that he needed rehab and all that kind of stuff. But Feyre and Nesta both, I mean, Feyre does not disagree with it. She's kind of just upset with Nesta for saying it out loud. But Nesta points out saying that he could go and get work, but he's too ashamed to. Right? And Feyre makes a few comments about like sometimes like her dad doesn't seem like he's completely all there and that he's off somewhere else. Right? So I mean, it makes sense why they would be upset with their dad. I point this out because like they're not upset with each other. They are upset with their father. I was about to say father figure, but their father. Because maybe later on that's going to change that like who they're mostly upset by. But I'm pointing out right now her feelings are mostly directed towards her dad not being the primary breadwinner. Right? But I am going to give Nesta 2 mean points here because when she gets home, she calls her sister smelly from hunting, and that's mean. That is like I don't care if it's true or not. You don't tell someone that. Especially after they bring like how she said it too was a bit mean, right? But I'm also looking at it as it's like a lot of these I look at it as that like, these are just sisters. I have 2 older sisters. I'm assuming it's just like sisters being sisters, honestly, but I'm gonna count that as mean. Like you can be sisters and also be mean to each other and then also immediately forgive each like it's right. So makes a comment about her being smelly. Feyre takes that as an attack because she says that she didn't get as much like as she didn't get a good education, right? And basically we learn that when she was like I believe around 10. This might not be in this chapter, chapter 2, but it's in the 5 chapters. But when she was around 10, that's when they fled from their home, right? Because the dad made some bad investments, and they're like, we're coming to collect and like beat you up. Feyre watched the whole thing, very traumatic. The 2 sisters ran and hid. I will not blame any of the sisters for the actions that they took when they were attacked. I won't be doing it. Um, they are children who experience trauma. And at that point, we don't know at this point what was going on through their heads, especially we don't know if potentially Feyre was not wanting to go with them. We don't know that. So I am not going to blame Feyre for staying, Nesta and Elain for hiding. In that moment, they either did the best that they thought they could, or they couldn't think. So very traumatic for everyone there. Nesta does believe that at, on some level, she's like, well, he should have fought back. And that kind of, to me, sounds like a child who is hurt about this. It doesn't seem like a mature thought. Not saying she has to be by any means. I don't hear them going to therapy at all. But it makes sense that a child would have that point of view. And I mean, we don't know if the dad could get work. What is suggested here is he just couldn't get work in that area and then he just potentially chose not to, but we don't know if he'll also just being ableist here. Um, what it is said is he just can barely use his leg. But he does like to wood carve. Um, And Feyre also kind of like dismisses him trying to sell his wood carvings because they're like no one would like take them, and then he also kind of like bartered them for like fake protections that don't work. But I kind of see that as like him trying kind of to protect his family, but like that one thing that we see is just kind of like dismissed, and she's like, well, they won't work. But like at that point, like we're not given an example of it not working though. Um, So Feyre recalls her mom, and it's not necessarily like a good memory. And basically, how in this chapter it's kind of like I'm able to envision it is I would describe it as, from what she says, only here, of like Lady Featherington, of where it's like her mother was more um, well, I mean, Lady Featherington didn't really like her husband, but it's more of a wanting her to, well, she allegedly said something along the effect of, your painting could attract a suitor, right? And her mother was also doting on their dad, and then also liked to party, right? So I would say that Lady Featherington liked to go to those parties. And I think at this point I do also want we don't know the mother, right? But that's the idea I'm getting from her is like a Lady Featherington vibe of it's like this society that we're in kind of is a little bit medieval or in the area that they're in, right? So I'm just gonna look at it from that point of view and which is like it sounds like they need to be married to a man or that societal expectations, especially if they're, a bit noble. So it would and being cold to well children that's kind of sad. Um and I think this is where we stumble into why she does not like Nesta so much. I don't think it's because Nesta is mean, because she says the things that Feyre is thinking. It's because Nesta looks like their mom. It's because she looks like their mom, and so she's taking out her whole feelings of abandonment issues, um, and what sounds like neglect, also, and just giving it to Nesta, which is really sad. Um, so Nesta resists chopping wood, whatever. Um, This is when we also, on page 16, hear about this oath that her mom made her take. Not made her take, but like coerced her, if we're listening to Feyre, which is stay together and look after them. I'm wondering, because she's like, only I was told to do that. How do we know that? How do we know that Nesta and Elain won't coerced in this manner to do the same thing? We don't. At least at this point in the story, we don't know that. We are only going off of what Feyre is saying. Whether or not we're going to believe it, I don't know. It would make sense to me that maybe she would try to say that to all three of them, like, stay together. Um, but, I don't know. And so that's why she doesn't leave, but at the same time, from this Feyre, book one Feyre, she would never leave her family. I do not think it is the oath with her mother why she's there. I think that's what she tells herself because later on we're gonna have her talk to this mercenary and she's thinking, do I need to take my family and do we need to flee? And I think this is something very important I'm going to go through, which is Feyre's intuition in the beginning is spot on. It is there. And maybe that is an argument for why she is a good hunter, because her intuition is there. But later on, I think she has stuff messing with her, but like early on, her intuition is there. Right. Um, I'm also going to give a mean point to Feyre because she also is the same thing. She just won't say it out loud. Which, I mean, it's just like, why are you being so fake? Just say it. And I think that's what the problem is with Nesta, is that Nesta's not fake. And that's funny because she grew up in this area and in this society where you're supposed to be fake. But I don't think Nesta would have actually succeeded or thrived in that area. I don't think so because it requires you to be fake. Like, oh my gosh, it's all about like the secret things or the things you're not saying. Nesta is unable not to do that. And so I don't think she would have succeeded. Um, so that's all the main tracker for chapter 2. We're going to do foreshadow and then we're going to get into this fight because Nesta and Feyre, they're going to get into a fight in this chapter for chapter 2. So basically, there's foreshadow. There is a just one on the trestle. Feyre, during the summer, right, they had paint. This is what I'm saying. Feyre's intuition, vile in the beginning. Like, legitimately. She paints 3 paintings, one for her sister. For her sister Elain, she painted the violets and roses on her thing. Interesting. Okay, Nesta, she paints a crackling flames on it. Interesting. Move on. Feyre, she paints on her own handles. Yellow stars and a night sky in darkness. Now, this is foreshadow, and that's all we're going to get to. But remember, this is what I'm saying. Feyre's intuition. Oh, but the awful. No, that's lazy. This is the mode in which we are getting it. Feyre painted these things. Feyre is having these intuition moments. So that's important. We're going to move on though, right? All right, let's get into the fight. Actually, JK, those are before the fight. There's commentary on this. Oh my gosh, and the books are literally all the way over there. Oh my gosh. Alright, so basically before the fight happens, like, Feyre's not really thinking anything much into it. I clock this. I'm looking at it and I'm like, social commentary? Social commentary from Nesta. I see it, I look at it, I like it. Right? Um, so Nesta is talking to Elain about how people in the village pretend that the fabric is better than it is. And like, Feyre's just like, oh my gosh. Wow, they're talking about that, right? And then obviously it turns into the fight for what's going to happen later on. But I was like, this is social commentary. Nesta is doing political social commentary about how people like to pretend that they know more than they do in a political sense or like a social sense to grasp on to a social hierarchy because they feel like, well, I should be a part of that, right? In some sense, even if they don't know what they're saying. And I literally wrote the Satyricon by Petronius, specifically, do you know what Trimelico? Um, I mispronounced that. I'm so sorry. Now this is very dark, but that's okay because we're all adults here, and you can look up your triples. But basically, what this dinner is, the Satyricon. This is like a classic uh, text, meaning from antiquity, right? This is from Rome, and it's basically it's all about social commentary, and in it, it's they're all freedmen um at this dinner, and they are at a person's house, right? Who is, I believe in this story, the richest person in Rome, right? And I believe it's like said that like even like the emperor doesn't have as much money as him, something along those lines. I'm so sorry, I haven't read it in a long time, and I only read it because of the class. Anyways, so it's like they are talking, right? And they're very rich men. Um, but the thing is, they didn't grow up in the area, and they didn't get the best education, right? So they are saying things that they hear rich people say, that they're getting it wrong. But no one in the room calls them out and knows that it's wrong. The reader is supposed to read it and go, this is incorrect mythos that they are saying, right? And it's also commentary on how much they're eating and just how wasteful that they are and how extravagant that they are going more and more and more. Potentially commentary on like um, overindulging so that they feel like they are actually a part of it. Um, Basically, that's how I'm going to explain it, right? And so I see whole talking about how these villagers are pretending to know, and it just rung about and like how these freedmen, these men, are pretending like they know the things that rich people talk about because they heard rich people say that and they want to feel like they belong in it. And then you have these villagers talking about basically what they feel like rich people would talk about. And I just wanted to point that out. I felt like that was important to talk about. Let's get into this fight. Okay, full stop. Both sisters for this fight is going to get 2 points added to them. Why? Is because, yes, Nesta was mean. Feyre started it, right? And both were mean. So I feel like 2 points for this fight is reasonable. Some might say Nesta should have got more points, potentially, but I'm going to say both 2 points. It's a fight, they argued, and we're going to leave it at that. When I say we're going to leave it at that, I mean talks of how many points we're going to get for this scene. So here is basically what happens. Nesta and Elain start talking about how Nesta has almost secured a marriage, an engagement, right? And Feyre heals the person. And like she makes a comment about being like, you're gonna marry a person who's like a woodcutter, but you're not gonna cut wood for us. Fair enough. But what it also is just like during this entire fight, Faye was just like, we can't afford it. We can't afford a dowry. This is not gonna happen. No, 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 no. But the problem is, excuse me, and I think that this is mean, she doesn't say why she doesn't want her sister to marry him. There are legitimate reasons to why she should not marry him. Does she say them in this argument? No. She just says, you can't get married, we cannot afford a dowry. If she said, and I want to talk about this guy for the until chapter 5, so you should have already known everything from chapter 2 to 5 is up for grabs. 1. He almost stole from Feyre and potentially unalived her when they were hunting and he came across her because he was hungry. The kind of person that Nesta is, from what we have seen, no. No, you're not going to hunt either of her sisters. Now, Feyre may think, oh, but she'll only... No. No, you're not going to hunt either of her sisters. I find out, or she find out, that you hunt her sisters? No. No. She is protective of both her sisters. She just doesn't usually think that Feyre would like or even want or need her to like help her. And I think that's kind of what the thing is, right? Even Feyre's just like, well, she knows I don't need it. But the other thing, and she says this in chapter 5. Hey, his dad assaults his mom, and none of the sons, none of them, stops it. She didn't know either of those two things. Either of those two things would have been like, no. So, Feyre maybe like communicate more, right? Okay, so Nesta. You know, she calls her some mean names, especially in the end. Nesta's point is like, what's like the big deal? We're in love. And then once like that gets dismissed, she's just like, well, what's the problem? I thought your big dream plan was for me and Elain to get married, and you and completely that fantasy, that dream that she said that she would indulge in every once in a while. She basically says like the entire thing. The entire thing, and she's like, well, isn't this helping you? She's like, you want us to be married off, and I mean, like, she ain't wrong. Was a lie, you know. And so she also says, you're jealous. And Faye was like, what do you mean I'm jealous? I'm not jealous. And she's like, well, that guy you've been like fooling around with for 2 years, he's about to marry someone else that's not you. What? Did I say that she had a love interest? that she doesn't actually realize a love interest named Isaac that she says that she was with, but is like meaningless to her. If I didn't, so sorry she has some. But she's like whatever about it. But also she's been with him for 2 years. And she's like, it's meaningless. He offers to buy her protection. I don't think it was meaningless to him, but like their relationship is their relationship. But like obviously in this argument, she's like, yeah, he's gonna go marry someone, and you're jealous because now I am trying to seek a marriage match when you basically are gonna secure the bag, right? And that's mean to say, but if that's what it is, like Nessa initially makes points. This is your fantasy that you've been fantasizing. What's the problem? Next, the person that you're with or you were with is about to marry someone else. And now you see me potentially marrying someone else, and that could be triggering you. All these things could be said in better ways, but whatever. And then once that doesn't work, she then resorts to being very mean and doing insults. So I mean, she kind of lost them, but like I would say, overall, I think Feyre should not have started it because she did start it, and then she gets upset. But both of them do. So I mean, like, is there really any winners there? Both 2 points, like I said. Okay. So after the fight, Nesta and Elain, they go into the bedroom. They're really upset. But Nesta's really upset. And she goes to her dad and she's like, why didn't you stop that? And he's just like, let her have hope that there might be a chance of a better world. And oh my gosh, she's just like, there's no such thing as hope. Okay. Interesting. That you have to ruin your sister. Like, she could have said either of those two things. Either of them. Like, I just asked Nesta to be like, no. You're not going to hurt my sister. Period. And that's either one of them. Okay, so we're going to move on after the fight. So as of right now, Feyre is at 6 mean thoughts, so she said 6 mean things to others, and Nesta is at 5. So they're like neck and neck. You know? Okay, so chapter 3, page 21. We'll start there, right? So Nesta did chop the wood. So that's what I'm saying, like, did one of them win over the other because like Nesta chopped the wood? They felt really bad. So I would just describe it as like it's a sisterly fight. That's all it was. But like they were really mean to each other. Three sisters, they go into town. Faye was like, it's because they want the money, and it's just like, or maybe they also want to go into town. It also could be the money too. But as we want to see later on, Nesta and Elain at one point was robbed in the village. So it could also simply be that it's like strength in numbers, you know. But they run into it's also market day, so that could be a reason why they wanted to be there. But like they run into children of the blessed. Now, children of the blessed are not viewed in a good light by any of the people in the town. The village elders allegedly is like, you can be here for like 12 hours, but then you need to leave. You need to leave. Right. And basically they worship Faye. And people are like, dog, they enslaved us for 1,000 years. We have a treaty, they still kill us. No. No. Right. So like right. And like apparently Silver is supposed to allegedly attract them and they will Silver and they're like, right. So they are not liked or well respected at all. And they're like, hey, do you have a moment that you can spare with us? And like Nessa's like, no. Tries to leave. And listen, I've been approached multiple times of people being religious and trying to talk to me. Um, I'm not gonna be like, you should have been nicer, because she literally just said no. She could have been a lot meaner. I've heard people be a lot meaner to when people are trying to like come out to them. Right. So okay. So here was the thing though, right? Nesta is mean when the other person keeps on persisting. Right. So I am gonna give her a mean point for that. Um But like the thing is, okay, so Feyre is disapproving, but she's not disagreeing with what Nesta is saying. Like that's like the frustrating thing is Feyre is never usually when it's other people. She doesn't think that Nesta is wrong for her belief. She's wrong for saying that. So I was really like, Grilly Pop, what are you doing? Okay, so Feyre's disapproving because she's like they can be nuisances. And it's just like, okay, sure. Now Feyre and Elain both have iron bracelets. Isaac also has one. Awful to get Feyre one, but she felt like it was like too committing, type of a thing, like for what they were. So it sounds like this person did want to be with her, and he is one of the richer people in the village. So there could have been a marriage there, and then her family could have been brought out of whatever. But like, I'm gonna point that out. Now a town villager sees them. Actually, two of them do, right? And she calls them a soul. I end up just giving her only one because like she doesn't disagree with it. I almost gave her two, but I'm like technically, I only gave her one for the misogyny. But like at the same time, I could be convinced to give her another one. But technically it was one action, one mean thought. But now the other person calls these people fools and whores. So we're just slut shaming. And that's not like nods her head, but like what are we going to do on that? So are we saying that they're fools? Okay, I can see where we're coming with that from, right? But are we saying they're fools and whores? Is that what you're agreeing to, or that they're whores? Like what are we? Because just because they have like an ideology that you don't agree with does not mean we can slut shame them. When they're like, what are we doing here? Um, so both sisters are potentially slut shaming someone for their ideology. And you shouldn't be slut shaming for like any reason. Like what? Obviously, Nesta gets no point for that. Um. Okay, so I'm not gonna say that this is mean. I want to say it's brutal honesty. So the children of the forest woman, she's just like, hey, no, I like my sister went to be a bride of a high lord. Or is it a high fae? Nesta's just like, okay, well, like your sister crossed the wall. She was probably eaten. I'm like, Feyre agrees with her. And honestly, I mean, it's kind of mean to say, but like at the same time, it's just like I feel like this is like a hey, this is a possibility. Did she potentially say it to be mean? Probably. I'm not gonna count it as a mean tracker here. Um, Also, I want to point out like so much misogyny, and and so far she hasn't really like she kind of like crosses. Yeah. Okay. Anyways, so we learn the High Fae rule Prithian, and then later on we learn there are 7 High Lords of Prithian, right? But she's like, I really hope that this person did not fool around, mess around with the High Fae, because like it would have been really bad. Like it was already probably gonna be really bad, but like it would have been even worse, right? They dispersed. Okay, fine. She's like, we're gonna meet up here 1 hour. Okay. She goes. She meets up with like a like mercenary to sell her stuff. And I'm gonna point out that she says that high lords can turn bones into dust. Sorry, high fae can turn bones into dust. So like we gotta know this for like what is a high lord, right? And like that kind of power level. So okay, fine, whatever. We're gonna move on. I'm gonna give her a point because as she is doing business with the mercenary, she sees her sisters and compares them to vultures. I no. If you compare your sisters to vultures, even if they are circling you, and I understand it can be poetic language, you're gonna get a point. No, mercenary was like, oh, I wouldn't have gone like that far into the forest. Interesting, and you know what? Then you wouldn't have gotten the belt, right? And then this is also when we learn that they might attack and the whole thing about them being enslaved for 1,000 years. That's a very long time. But then there were 6 mortal queens that crafted the treaty, and then the wall came after that. And then mentioning it, like, so this is what I'm saying called intuition. It's because her intuition is like, do we need to flee? Will they attack? Will the treaty be broke? Like, she's thinking about this thing. And her immediate response is, in her mind, do I need to get my family and somehow get us south? And I mean, like, if the wall's gonna be broken, like, it doesn't matter how south you go, they're gonna come for you. Right? But what I'm saying, whole intuition is just like, we need to flee now. And from what I've heard, whenever something like this is going to happen, you have to get out before other people decide to go out, or like it might not work. Right? So I'm like, whole intuition it's a going. Right? Okay, so she gets paid a lot. Nesta, page 30, comes after the deal is done, grabs Feyre, and pulls her away. And she's like, do not associate them, do not talk to them, they are dangerous. And like Feyre's like, wait, what are you doing? Like, why? And she's like, she doesn't normally protect me, but like we're seeing this moment, and that's why I am saying that if she would have said, this person that you are wanting to get with almost attacked me, Nest probably would have been like, no, you are not going to attack my sister, steal from my sisters. Like, sure, I can starve, whatever. You're not going to make my sister starve. Why I'm so passionate about that is because the woman that I am seeing in this moment protect her sister with a passion. And I, and Faye was just like, well, she would only just for Elain. Girly Pop, what are you doing? Wait, what is she doing right now? She is protecting you. This is the older sister coming in and being like, no. And this is when we learned that a former mercenary, he was having a bad day and stole from them. And like, Faye was like, why didn't you tell me? And that's like, what would you have done? Why didn't you report it? And what would they have done? Right? So, I mean, like, I understand why Nesta is just like, don't do it. But at the same time, I'm like, you could have, like, total before this. I'm not saying, like, you should have, like, reported it. I think I feel like you should have. I'm saying, like, if you know your sisters are going to be with mercenaries, maybe it's just, like, a watch out type of a thing. But, I mean, at the same time, it's kind of whatever. Okay, so she sees Isaac. He signals for her to go to the barn. Nesta's just like, take precautions. I hope you are. And then Pharaoh's like, it's too late for you to kill. Okay, and if Nesta has to take care of a screaming child for you, because you're off hunting, or she's a free daycare, which from what I'm seeing, it kind of feels like Nesta and Elain were the free daycare, and the dad was not taking care of her. And it's not like the mom didn't either, so it's just like, okay. Honestly, where we are at the end of this chapter is Feyre is jealous of Nesta and Elaine's relationship. She's watching them talk and like how close they are, and she's jealous. And I mean, like, it makes sense. I'm not saying she's wrong for feeling jealous, and that's not like a point against her. I just like an observation. She is jealous that her sisters have a closer relationship, and that's rough. You know, I as a younger sister of the third sister, so I guess out of three, like yeah, it sometimes is really painful when you have two sisters and they're close to each other than you. And what I will like suggest especially is like sometimes the relationships they differ, right, in times. So in some points like you're gonna be closer maybe to one sister than the other sister. Right, and it really just depends. So, I mean, I'm not going to judge her for feeling insecure in this relationship because it really does seem like they have a close relationship. However, I do wonder if that is simply because Feyre takes no effort, puts no relationship in, nothing into the relationship, and is cold to even Elaine, who's trying to be nice to her. Um, but she does decide. Um, okay. Before we get into that, uh, when she says it's too late for that, she puts money into I think Elaine's hand, whatever, and she's just like, okay, whatever. Like I'm gonna go. She goes. She does the thing. And her sisters, they get stuff. Now, there's one point. She never said that she needed anything. She never said thus far in text that she needed something. You know who did? Elain and Nesta. And so with the spare money, they got their dad something. I think that if they was like, get me some boots, they would have got her some boots. She's just like, I didn't say anything about like the cloak and boots being too expensive. And part of me feels like she doesn't know how much things cost because quality shoes and a quality coat, especially in the winter, like during winter, oh my gosh, it like literally inflates. And if you want a coat that's going to last you and not be fast fashion, it's going to be a little bit pricey. That's not like a commentary on like the sisters like buying too much or like something too pricey. That's just like that's capitalism, and unfortunately, it sounds like they're living in it. Um, and because like they were also just talking about like apart from the mercenary, no one's giving fair deals, right? She was actually concerned and being like, why are you being so nice with this deal? Right? So Nesta got new shoes. Elaine got a new coat. And they got their dad a new wood carver. And 1,000% I think that she was like, I need new shoes. Nesta would have been like, get you something over my dad? Yeah, absolutely. you know, um, so we end the chapter with Feyre is about to talk to Nesta about why she should not marry that Tom person. I don't know. But before they do, they are attacked. Let's get into chapter 4. For my copy, this is page 33 to 41. Okay, so this is an action type thing. Now, for readers, you will know who this character is. But we're not supposed to know his name yet. So I'm going to either call him the fairy. No, that's what I'm going to call him. Okay. The fairy or a fairy. That's what we're going to call him because we shouldn't know his name yet. So if fairy comes and breaks down the doors of the cabin, right. And that's what stops Saul from saying, hey, you shouldn't really marry this guy. Um, okay. Basically, you gotta think about this as quick time events. Or, like, this is happening very short time. Right. Okay. Feyre breaks down the door. Nesta grabs Elain. Feyre gets in front of both of them. Now, Nesta and Elain, they go into kind of the fireplace area. Dad goes in between Feyre and Nesta, right? So keep in mind, Elaine's the most, I don't want to say protected because she is isolated, right? She does not have an escape plan. And then Nesta and the dad and then Feyre. I'm not gonna get too much into like why like the dad should have put himself because like at this point in the very beginning, he does not know that Feyre can't win this fight. Right? So it's kind of like the person who can fight him and then the other two doggles. Right? So this fairy, he comes in, he's like, Murder House! Murder House! You're all mortals, basically, right? But he's like, Who did it? Who did it? Who killed him? And like the dad's like, we didn't kill anyone, full stop, we did not do it. And that's just like, we didn't do it, we did not kill anyone, like I don't know what you're talking about, they're denying it. Feyre. Right. She takes out a knife, she throws it. That's when she runs away. Wait. She does another one, misses, it's bad. And she's like, okay, so I can't do that. And then she's like, wait, maybe, maybe I have to talk my way out because I can't do it, right? Because whole Ashwood is behind this beast, one might say. So she's like, dang. Now she does not lie yet. Page 35. I would call this like an Aes Sedai lie. If you know, you know. But like, she says, "Hey, girly, girly, what if we like accidentally? Like, what would happen if one of us like accidentally were forced to have like killed?" Right? Because like at this point they're like, "Who do we kill?" Like, it's like the wolf, right? And that's when she's like, and she's like, "What if we like accidentally killed the wolf? Like, what if? Like, crazy thought, right?" And he's like, the treaty must be followed." Blah blah blah. Now here's the thing. She is called a liar when she says, "I killed the wolf." And he's like, "You lied to protect your sisters." And it's just like, babes, really. She's the one that's like trying to fight you right now, and the other ones are not. And you think that the others are the one who did it. Right. So Feyre gets caught lie on number one. Now this time she does lie, and she's like, "Yeah, so I did it." And that's not the lie. The lie is she says, "If I would have known it was a fairy, I would not have done it." That's a lie. That's not an I said I lie. That's just a lie. You know. So right now, one for one. Except he calls her out, and she's like, and he's like, "You, if you would have known, you would have been happy." He's not wrong, you know. But so like she did lie and she got called out for it. So like two times she gets called a lie on the scene. One time she actually does lie. Um, so basically, here's what happens. She's like, okay, leave my family alone. Like, how are we gonna do this? Like, let's make it quick, and let's also can we have it outside so that and she's like, it should be outside so that they don't have to clean me up. You can agree with some, but that's all mine. Then he's like, we're gonna have the treaty. What's the treaty? Oh, okay, a life for a life. Either you, Grilly Pop, return to me, well, not, you return to, you go to Prithian and spend the rest of your days there, leaving the mortal realm behind. You can never return. Um, and you can do that, or I can just like kill you now. And he also is just like brave to tell me, well, I can kill you. Brave. And you know what? That's true. But you know what? We cannot say Feyre's not brave in the false book. um, so he like says like multiple times, like, because she's like not processing it because like she's scared, I think, and so he's just like, you know, you leave with me, fairy realm, all that kind of stuff. And she's like, okay, where am I gonna go? I can't live there. And he's like, I have lambs. I have lambs. Right? Dad, he's like, initially, go, go. He's like, at least you will be alive, right? Did I mention this is a Beauty and the Beast retelling? Or book one? Um, and then he tries to bartle, and I can kind of see the bartle, but like, I almost said his name. But this guy, he's just like, okay, and like, what lump sum would you put on your dawdle? If you can even get it. And like, they were just like, he can't get it. Like, he would be like asking for money. And like, it was just like, yeah. So she leaves before she does that. She tells the dad, like, hey, hey, um, this is how you can like prepare all that kind of stuff. Like I would describe it like as when Katniss is like telling Prim like don't like it's okay, so don't take out more like name, like don't put your name more, do not put your name into the pot even more, like don't do it, just sell the cheese from your goat to the people, like there's all that kind of advice. Basically does that to the dad. And then goes to Nesta and she's like, hey, the reason why I didn't want you to go and be with him is because his mom gets assaulted by his dad, and they all know and do not stop it, like I said, right? Here is whole plan, right? Um, unalive him, get the family to safety. Also, page 38, he does destroy the ash shield. So the only thing that she could have done to, bring a knife into the shop with the Irish Spring. Anyways, so basically she leaves. It's very obvious that Nesta did not know. And I'm like, if you would have just like talked it out, you wouldn't have thought, probably. Right. So here is the count at the end of chapter 4. We have Feyre lies one time. Feyre gets called a liar 2 times, one of which she was lying. Um, Feyre is mean 8 times, and Nesta is mean 7 times. I have not seen a point in which Elaine has been mean. I've been looking. I haven't seen her be mean or disrespectful. I'm going to be completely honest. I really haven't. Um, Elaine's quiet. Apart from the time she's not. Like, Elaine's been trying to get, like, the whole thing with like, the mercenary, not most, the whole thing with the mercenaries, she does kind of explain stuff that Nesta is leaving out to Feyre. But, like, with the Children of the Blessed, she's completely just, like, trying to literally get them out. And I think, like, Nesta is taking it as, like, oh, she doesn't want to be here, all this stuff. But, like, kind of just seems like to me in that scene, Elaine's just like, let's not fight, I want to walk away, well, like, type of a thing. So I don't like obviously agree with like Feyre's like idea that she is not smart. Like that's really mean. Um, I just think that she is just quiet and she likes to go about things not making a big scene of things. That is what I'm seeing of it. Okay, so let's get into chapter 5. This is the last chapter for this part. Now you might be doing some math and you're like, wait, if we're doing it every 5 chapters, and we had one for all chapter 1, and this one's 4, shouldn't we have another one to make it chapter 5? Okay, you know what? It's easier to just go 5, 10, 15, 20 than like now it's like 6, then we add, like, then it's 11. Like, I don't want to do that. So it's going to be 4 this time and then 5 next time. So you thought that I was done making Hunger Games references? No. Okay, so this is going to be from pages 42 to 46, right? So this is going to be long, page 42 and 43. The treaty forbids Feyre from taking humans as enslaved peoples. That's all she knows about it, right? And I mean, like, if she says she didn't get the best education, but literally, like, basically any, so it would make sense. At the same time, it does feel like, why is no one educating these, like, women and girls? Now they're women, but they used to be girls. When it sounds like it used to be, and if we're taking, like, fairy myths, like, it seems like women and girls are the biggest, like, people that would be targeted, right? And I want to say that's like commentary. I do. I want to say that's commentary of it being like women and girls are not being educated like they should be educated. Um, like in relations to like things that them not knowing could put them in more harm. But she thinks of this as him stealing her, which if we're looking at like the mythos, women and girls, women, I'm thinking of more of women, but like women and girls being stolen, right? And it seems like that is something in this world, and that women and girls used to be stolen. Um, she compares this to a little more than a lamb in a kingdom of wolves. She has thoughts about unaliving him, and we are revealed something else, a lore. She says that during the war and stuff like that, there was a betrayal among the fairies, in which they, a betrayal of the High Lords, High Fae, and they tell humans about the Ashwood. Um, and that is the only reason that they survived, is the knowledge that the Ashwood could kill them. Right? So very important. This is when I have like the thought of like what if the dad is just like a archetype or like dealing with the same thing that Miss Sebaldine dealt with, or like maybe he like needs medical attention. Like maybe like there was something like wrong and he's just not given what like given medicine, right? Because it was Mrs. Everdeen spoilers for Hunger Games, the series, but the trilogy specifically, but she's like, if they had medicine that I believe she made or she got at the end, then she could have been around more for her kids. But she didn't have the medication that she needed, right? So I'm also thinking, what if the dad is like that? Like he needs mental medication. He needs help. But either this is a society in which they don't have that, like maybe there is no known medication to help with mental problems. Right, like maybe like his physical body can be healed as much as it can be, but maybe they didn't look into his mind, right? Maybe that just like needs help, right? Because it's just like sometimes she describes him as like he's not there, like he's off thinking in somewhere else, like he's reliving it. It sounds like, So I'm going to move on to to page 44. And we're going to get some lore. So Prythian, this is where we learn that Prythian is divided and ruled by 7 high lords, or 7 areas, right? And they have unyielding power that legends claim could level buildings, break apart armies, and butcher you before you can think. Page 44. So if we're looking at what is a high lord, right? They should, according to lore, at this moment, should be able to level buildings, break apart armies, and butcher you before you can think. Also turn your bones into dust. Now, are these all fairy tales that may not actually show? Yes, but at this point, this is what we're thinking the power scale should be. Okay, so we are going to get into the mean thoughts, right? So Feyre calls humans fools to live too close to the wall after, like, the wall was formed. She lives 2 days from the wall. She is one of the fools that she is thinking about. I'm going to give her a point for that. um, and then she also, okay, I'm not going to give her a point for this because it's instant regret. And you know what? Sometimes people have bad thoughts they immediately regret, and it's just like, oh, why did I have that thought? Like kind of like an intrusion, right? She thinks about how her family would then have to recognize about how much she did, right? And is immediately sickened by it, and then felt remorse, like so much remorse by having that thought. And I'm like, I'm not gonna get this. Like I'm not gonna count like her having a bad thought that I think that she wished that she didn't have in this. So sometimes if you're like, this is a mean thought, why don't you, if I think, and especially if she has remorse immediately following it, I think if it's an intrusion, I'm not going to count it. I don't think that should be held against anyone for having a bad thought. And I laugh a little bit like, though, not saying it's funny, it's just like that I'm not going to do that. That is being mean. And that's going against why I'm even doing a mean cowl. Okay. Why did I put this in a mean cowl? Oh, it wasn't a mean cowl, it was just continuation. Okay, so page 45, we're still on that. Again, she wants to escape, take her family, and flee. Um, it makes sense, but at the same time, it's just like, at this point, is that the best idea? That being said, I do think her family should flee. But, like, if that's not feasible, it's not feasible. You know what I mean? Um, and because, like, of that thought, that's when I'm like, I feel like I want to take points back. Because, like, she obviously kills her whole family. And this is just, like, when everyone's being mean to each other. And so that's when I had a thought, what if there was, like, if it's about the family, and then she, like, has, like, a positive thought, and it's just like, oh my gosh, like, yeah, I thought, what if I take it back? But I'm like, I haven't decided if I'm going to do that. I feel like it's still, like, a count of how many times. But, so I didn't take any points away for having, like, this concern. But this is just to tell me, like, a continuation of the Feyre at this point in the books. It is about her family. I do not think it's about the oath. She keeps on saying the oath, the oath, the oath. I think that she would be like this even if she didn't do it. I think the oath is just an excuse to try to brute force her family. I'm gonna be honest. She's kind of being a little bit of like a nuisance, a little bit. And what's his name? And she gets put to sleep, and then arrive at his home. So So like I feel like every 5 chapters it's just like a little. So basically, Feyre, we have some time with her sisters. They're kind of mean to each other, but like they're sisters. Honestly, um, they are not the best at communicating, but like I don't think that they would be, especially with no therapy after what they all went through. Um, and then Feyre faces repercussions for killing that wolf and skinning it. Like she 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 thought it was a fairy. She thought it was, and you know what? Her intuition was right, and that I think that's another thing. Like her intuition so far it has not been wrong, right? We don't know necessarily if it was going to be like a fight, and if like the fairies are wanting to do it. But I'm saying like she's having these thoughts, and I feel like you should listen to your intuition. Okay, so here are the countables. We have Feyre is mean, or has a mean thought, or says something mean 9 times. Nesta has a mean thought, says something mean 7 times, but now she presumably is no longer in this story because unless she goes to Prithian, right? Feyre lies 1 time, gets caught a liar 2 times. Um, And we're leading off this story, or this dive, at page 47, chapter 6. And again, that is the paperback of Court of Thorns and Roses from 2020, that edition. Actively, I am on page 123, chapter 14. I hope that you have enjoyed that. I know this has been long, but here we are. Okay, hope you have a good day and goodbye.